So I'm out here on this nice brisk morning making a couple workbenches, and so what I'm using for my workbench top, you can see the whole thing here, is a nice piece of quarter or a 3/4 inch sanded plywood from Home Depot. So I took one sheet and I cut it up into essentially fourths with some modifications, and that's going to give me two bench tops, which is this piece, and two shelves. Um, so you can see the rest of the pieces over here that I've cut, and I haven't started measuring those ones out yet. But if you stick to dimensions like that, even dimensions of your 4 foot by 8 foot sheet, you can get a very efficient use of your materials, and you'll have to make fewer cuts. So that's a benefit. And the key to making a good, strong, level workbench, try and show you the whole thing again, is to start from the top and work your way down. Because you want this top, this is the whole thing. This is what you're actually going to be working on. So the legs, they really don't matter. All they do is hold the thing up. So you want to start from the top, work your way bottom. So the first thing you do is you determine which side's going to go on the bottom. For me, that's this side right here. The top is down below. And you can do all your writing and marking and cuts on the bottom. That way it doesn't show up on your finished product. So first thing is I sliced lengthwise. I got this piece is 25 inches, and then the shelf is 23 inches. And that gives me a little bit of overhang on the bench top, which I like to have. That way you can put clamps and stuff on the edge. It makes it a much nicer surface to work with, and the shelf can be a little bit smaller and give yourself some more leg room down there. You could even go more dramatic than this. You could go like, I don't know, 28 or 30 on the worktop, and then a much smaller shelf, and that's kind of more ergonomic to work with. But I like this nice and kind of even, give myself lots of storage space up there. And then so once you've made those cuts, so definitely you're going to want to mark them. So this is the back, and the back is going to be the one that you made your cut on, because your cut is probably not going to be as good as the factory edge. So then on the other side, mark front, and that's going to be, the part that you actually see, and that's going to be that nice factory edge. You can see that nice factory edge. And then once I've cut lengthwise, cut down the middle to make my 4 foot, 48 inch bench top. So before you do that, when you mark your straight line where you're going to cut, make a squiggle, and that way you can tell. It'll just tell you right off the bat. You can kind of index them together, and you can fit them right together. And it doesn't really matter when you're dealing with even dimensions like this, but it's nice to have just to very visual indicator of which piece goes to which, because I'm going to line these benches up together and kind of attach them together and get one big workbench that can still be moved around, because it can be split into two 4-foot sections. And then what you're going to do is you're going to start marking out where your lumber is going to go. So I'm using 2x3s for this. I really like using 2x3s for workbenches because they're plenty strong. They're significantly cheaper. They're like 1/3 the price of a 2x4. They're even cheaper than a 2x2. And they take up less room, so you get more storage space, more leg room, stuff like that. So anyways, I like to take give myself a 1-inch overlap on each dimension, then just draw lines both ways, and then start to draw out where your lumber. So your lumber is 1.5 inches thick or wide, and I like to have the lengthwise piece go all the way down. So do that one first, so you get that nice even edge when you're looking at the front of the workbench. So you do that, the lengthwise piece on both sides. And then you do the front to back piece that fits inside the long piece. And then the legs are going to go in here, and I haven't drawn those yet. You don't even really need to draw those because you're going to attach these pieces first and then put the leg in, and just the leg will attach wherever it fits within those pieces that you've already put down. And then what I like to do is then I measure these pieces. So we got 47 inches is this one. So I'll write that down, 47, 8 times, because I need 8 of them to make my 2 workbenches. If you're just making 1 workbench, you just need 4. And the reason you need 4 is you need 2 for the bench and then 2 for the shelf on the bottom. And that piece on the bottom is also critical because it's going to tie those legs together and keep them from splaying out and the workbench being all wobbly. So you need those pieces on the bottom, even if you're not building a shelf down there. And then let me go to the other side. So then on the other side, then I measure the other piece, and it's 20 inches front to back, and I need again 8 of them. Same reason. So this frame, we're just going to be building it at the top and at the bottom. All right, so we've got everything measured out. So the next step is to cut all this lumber. So I need to cut up 8 pieces of 47 inch and 8 pieces of 20 inch of 2x3, and that's it. That's all the materials you need. 1 sheet of plywood, and however many 2x3s this ends up being, whether it's 10 or 12 or however many. That's it. You make 2 gigantic, strong workbenches. So I'll cut forward to, once I've cut this lumber, what I recommend you use is a miter saw, chop saw, something like that, but you can absolutely use a circular saw to do that as well. And then I'll show you once I've attached up the lumber to the bench, and I'll show you how that works. Okay, so I lied a little bit, got a little bit ahead of myself there. I forgot a couple pieces, so I'm going to put these crossbars on the bench top. 2 of them spaced, 1/3 throughout the bench top to give it a little bit more strength in the middle. And then I also forgot to account for the legs. So I just drew one example one here. And my legs are going to be 35 1/4 inches long. And with the 3/4 inch workbench, that'll give me just about 36 inches height, which is what I'm looking for. And I need 8 of them. But with the addition of these crossbars, these are also going to be 20 inches. I'm going to need 16 of these. So there's a bit more lumber than I was anticipating there. So definitely not 10 2x3s, probably more, I don't know, like 16 or so. We'll see. I need to figure out how I'm going to cut these. But basically the way you're going to want to cut the lumber is start with the longest pieces. So obviously the 47s, you're just going to cut 2 of those out of an 8-foot piece 2x3, and then work your way down to the 35 1/4s, and you can get 2 of those out of an 8-foot piece, or if it fits better, you may want to mix in some 20s into there if it's more efficient use of the 2x3. You're just looking for the minimum amount of waste. So yeah, I'm going to get cutting that lumber and then get started assembling this thing. All right, so we got all our lumber cut. You can see we got 8 47-inch lengthwise pieces, 8 35 1/4 inch legs, 16 20-inch crossbars, and that used up 11 2x3s. So actually that came in right about where I was originally thinking, 10 to 12. So that's really not bad. With the prices these are currently, that's about $33 in lumber, so for 2 workbenches. So let's get started building these things. Okay, so here we are, just kind of doing a dry fit of our lumber here, and I found my first mistake, probably one of many. These were supposed to be 46 inches. I cut them to 47. I don't know how I did that in my head, but this is too easy of a fix. I mean, you could just slice off an extra inch if you want it to be exact, but in my case, I'm just going to leave it at 47 and just have less of an overhang here. Just kind of center it in there, and that's perfectly fine. I mean, that's how I'm going to have it. It'll maybe look a little wonky, but that's okay. But yeah, this is how it's going to be set up. So I'm actually going to go through and glue these. So I'm going to run glue right in the channels between them, and then brad nail them down. And that's just to hold them while the glue dries. Once the glue's dried, I'll assess whether they need any additional fasteners or not. I already have one of these built. This one right here, and it is extremely sturdy, and it's only using nails and glue. Granted, I went from the top on this one, which I'm not going to do here. I'm going to go from the bottom. That way I don't have any... oh, geez. That way I don't have any nail holes in my workbench top like I do with this one. This was the first one I made, so I learned some lessons from this one. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll jump back to when I've glued and nailed this. And I'm going to start with these crossbars. I'm going to get them all centered up so that we have a nice, level fitment here to just slam this lengthwise piece on and then nail those down. So we got, a perfect fit with all our crossbars there. So yeah, let's get this glued and nailed. And what I'm using to nail it is just got my little Makita compressor here with my brad nailer, using some, I don't remember what length, these maybe 1.5 inches. I don't remember. The size of the nail doesn't really matter too much. And yeah, I love this thing. If you're looking for a compressor just to drive nail guns for one person, this is amazing. It's super quiet, and it runs anything up to a framing nailer as long as you go slow. So it's perfect for a brad nailer. So let's get started. All right, so here's our glued and nailed finished product. This is our actual bench top, and I think it came out pretty well. The Home Depot lumber lined up as well as can be hoped for. I should mention I switched to a 15 gauge finish nailer with these big, I think they're 2.5 inch nails to secure the lengthwise pieces to the crossbars, and that made them super strong. You don't need this though. If you don't have that, you can use deck screws here. You can use, regular old nails with a hammer. Any type of fastener that's going to be long enough to go through, dimensional lumber like that will work there. And now you see we got a bunch of glue seepage. And what I like to do, I don't go ahead and wipe that off. I'll take a popsicle stick and I'll just go around and kind of cram that into in between the lumber there. And I'm doing a horrible job because it's on I'm holding the camera with one hand, but you get the idea. And that'll just, that'll tighten everything up that much more. You don't have to waste a bunch of rags cleaning up this glue. And it'll give you nice, it'll also act as kind of a filler and look a little bit better, in my opinion. So I'm just going to go ahead and go around and do that. And yeah, and then I'll do the other bench top, and then I'll show you how to attach the legs from that point. All right, so our next step here, we're going to be putting the legs on. So what I like to do is start out with the legs, set them up, and then put a crossbar across, line those ends up, and then I'm setting mine 2 inches from the end, and that'll give me a 2-inch space below that shelf. Actually more than that, because underneath the shelf there, this is just the support beams, but yeah, there'll be a nice 2-inch space to get underneath that shelf if I ever need to clean it out or anything. So that's how I like to do it and give yourself plenty of room on the shelf. So I'm going to glue these up, and then I'm going to put one nail in each one of them. And what that's going to do is it'll hold it there, but it'll still allow them to pivot while I attach them to the bench top. So let's get going with that. All right, so that's all set. We've got them all glued up and nailed in. And now we're just going to put the lengthwise piece right in front and on the back. So let's get going. All right, so we've got everything glued up and nailed. And at this point, if you're not putting a shelf on the bottom, you're done. This structure is totally complete. I am going to put the shelf, and I want it to be strong, so I'm going to put crossbars in, and I'm just going to glue them up and nail them. But then once that's ready, we'll be ready to flip this thing over and start finishing it. So let's get these crossbars on. All right, so the crossbars are on, glued and nailed. They seem pretty, sturdy enough for me. But if you're worried about the strength of any part of this build, what you can do is go back through, because now you have it assembled. Everything's not going anywhere. So as long as you keep it upside down, you're good even before the glue's dried. But if you're concerned about, these crossbars coming off, or the legs unattaching, or the the frame coming, the bench top coming off the frame, go back in with some of these brackets. These are just stainless steel brackets I got on Amazon for very cheap, a couple of cents each. You get them in a big pack. And you can put them throughout. You can attach them like this, attach the tabletop here with some very short wood screws. You can put them in the corners. You can put them on the legs. You can put them on the crossbars, just like that. And if you do that, this thing will be indestructible. It's not going anywhere. As is, I think this is going to be perfectly strong enough for my needs. But we'll see when I actually flip it over. I'm going to let the glue dry overnight now. Tomorrow I'll flip it over and start, sanding and finishing that bench top. But I think it'll be plenty strong enough. And if it's not, then I'll be going back through with brackets, and I'll definitely show that. But if it's strong enough, I'm not gonna bother, because it's just a waste of time and money. So yeah, let's let this set up, let that glue dry, and we'll come back here tomorrow and flip it over and see how it looks. With that shelf, there is one more set of cuts we need to make. We got to get it in between those legs, so we got to make room for them. So that's what this is right here. So because we cut this one short, 23 inches, it's going to fit flush on the front and the back. But on the sides, it won't. It's going to overhang. So we just got to cut out for this each leg. So, it's a 2x3, so it's 1.5 inches by 2.5 inches. And it's set off from the edge 2.5 inches, because that's our 1.5 inch for the crossbar on the side, and then the 1 inch overhang. And I just extended all these dimensions by 1/4 of an inch to give myself wiggle room to get it to actually fit in between those legs. Because what we're going to do is pass this shelf kind of diagonally in between the legs, and then fold it down so that these spaces fit right between the legs, fit right into these pockets that we make. So I'm going to go get out the jigsaw and cut these out. Well, here it is. Not exactly pretty. Jigsaw work really is, and I'm definitely not that good with them. But we've got them cut out, and these should work. We'll see when we go to put it back together. All right, so I got a little bit ahead of myself with these shelves. They need to be cut a little bit further in, 1.5 inches. That's just to account for how far inset the leg is. So I went ahead and did those. And then when I was going to fit them, I found that this corner over here on both of them was a little too tight. Wasn't letting them squeeze in there. So I'm just going to take maybe a 1/4 inch or even less off this edge here just to let them slide in easier. The fit on the shelf really isn't that important, and I'm not even going to screw or nail mine down. They'll just be sitting there on top of the crossbars and everything. So let me go cut this, and once I've done that, I'll show you the completed shelf, or excuse me, workbench. And here we have the finished product. I already moved it up into the room it's going into. And yeah, these are very strong. Stronger than I expected. Actually, I thought I was going to have to put some screws in them, but they're very solid. You can get up and sit on it here, and it holds up just fine. I moved them up here on their side, turned them over every which direction, and they are still completely solid. The shelves are pretty solid too. I don't know if I would necessarily step on the shelves because they aren't glued down to the actual plywood. It's just the structure itself. But yeah, the tabletop at least is very strong. The shelves will hold a lot of weight, I'm sure. And yeah, I'm very happy with how these turned out. Like I said, I made 2 of them, so this is all out of the benches, including the shelves and everything, is made out of 1 4x8 sheet of plywood and what did I say, 11 2x3s. So yeah, we came out just right, almost exactly at $100 for the wood, and then of course you got the extra for glue and nails or screws and the tools that you need. But yeah, I think these are a very economical option. I think they look good. They work out pretty well. I'm going to be putting these things to use very shortly here. And I'll update you if I have any issues with them, but I don't think I will because they already got moved up 2 flights of stairs, and they held up really well through that process. And yeah, you can pull on them. I'm sliding them across carpet and everything, and they hold up just fine. They're solid. They're solid in every direction. That's why I like these. It's a good construction method, in my opinion. So yeah, thanks for watching, and if you want to build some of these yourself. Oh, and there's one other thing. So I drilled holes in mine where the 2 meet. And what I'm going to do is put some 1/4 inch threaded rod between them, with nuts and washers on the end to bolt them together and make it one smooth table surface here. They're not really level. One, because I hastily constructed them and didn't really take my time to making the cuts and everything and the nailing super accurate. But it's also to be expected, especially with this cheap lumber. Not going to be quite level, especially not on carpet. And that's why I didn't even really bother making them perfect, because just sitting on carpet, it's really difficult to get them to sit level, even if the table itself is perfectly level. But what you can do, just set them down where you're going to put them and figure out how they're leaning, how they're rocking. Just flip them over and start sanding down those legs, and you can try and get them perfect that way. Just sand down the legs 1 or 2 at a time, diagonally, to get them flat and level with each other. You can also put little, you can put feet on the legs or caster wheels and level them that way. There's a lot of different ways to do it. For me, it doesn't really matter because I'm setting them on carpet, so I'll just put little, some little shims of wood or something underneath the legs to get them about right. And then once they're bolted together, I don't think I'll even really notice it being unlevel, because carpet, it has enough give either way that they just kind of stay there. They don't really rock too much. But on concrete, yeah, that would be annoying. Um, but yeah, thanks for watching. Good luck with your own. Let me know if you have any questions below.